This is the Australia Report with Vic Alhadeff. Good day, mate.
Vic Alhadeff, a very, very good morning or good afternoon to you in Australia. I hope you are well.
Good morning, Howard. Yes, it is good afternoon here in Australia. Well, thank you. Good to talk to you.
Nice to chat to you. The Israeli ambassador has intervened as the ruling Labour Party reworks its policy on the Israeli-Palestinian issue. It seems as though Australia not quite ready to take heed of their own creation. What is going on?
Indeed. So it's become quite an issue. So to go back one step, just to remind listeners, so the Australian government is a Labor government. It has been in power for some time, recently won re-election. Every couple of years they hold a national conference attended by approximately 400 delegates. So it is a big deal in which policies of the Labor Party, not the government, of the Labor Party are revisited, are rediscussed, etc., etc. So, and also part of the background is that when the Australian government some months ago recognized State Palestine, wherever that may be, in concert with a couple of other countries, part of that recognition was calling for Hamas to disarm and saying that Hamas must not be part of any future Palestinian government. So that's background. So then now we come to the conference, which has been held over the weekend, which has just passed us by. And a draft version of the Labour platform going into the conference said that essentially echoed the government policy, which is that Hamas must disarm and have no role in the future state of Palestine. So that's the background. As we get closer to the conference, a lot of activity is happening on both sides. On the one side, we have a Labour union, which is calling for tougher action against Hamas, but more sinister or more threateningly, we have movements by the first ever Muslim member of parliament, Muslim person to become a member of the Australian government. His name is Ed Hughes. He was actually dumped from the front bench end of last year. And Ed Hughes has been a trenchant critic of Israel for the last 2.5 years. And so as we approach the Labour conference, he is pushing for Australian representatives to be withdrawn from Israel, for trade to be cut off. He's got a quote there that Australia should investigate and prosecute any dual nationals returning to Australia who have served in the IDF. He wants trade sanctions in Israel connected to settlements. So he's got a really hard position that he is pushing. All of this is behind the scenes. So what happens is Josh Burns, who we've mentioned many times, proudly identifying Jewish member of parliament from Melbourne, Josh Burns and another member of parliament in Labour whose Palestinian background, his name is Abdo, who comes from a refugee background. The two of them get together and they work together behind the scenes. And the two of them come to a agreed platform, agreed by the two of them and by the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, in which they drop the two lines that Hamas must disarm. They drop the line saying that Hamas have no part in a future Palestinian government. But what their final platform does say is, quote, Labour unreservedly condemns terrorism and violent extremism, including as perpetrated by Hamas and other extremists. And it also says that the party, quote, opposes annexation of Palestinian territory, wants Israel to bring illegal settlement activity to a halt, and security for Palestine. So a big thing in these national assemblies is not to bring issues to the floor, not to debate them on the floor, because then you have no control who can say what, and all hell can break loose, if you pardon the expression. And so the achievement, quote unquote, of Josh Burns and his Palestinian colleague and the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister is to achieve what they achieved behind the scenes, so that there was no discussion at the policy, at the platform over the whole weekend on this issue. No discussion. Ed Husich, the Muslim member of parliament who is pushing this hard position, is very upset. He did a lot of media on it, saying this is ridiculous, it needs to be discussed, but it was not discussed at all. And so in the meantime, while all the above was happening, and in the lead up to the conference, there's a recently arrived Israeli ambassador to this country, and he comes from South Africa. His name is Hillel Newman. He has been here just a few months, not even 6 months, I would say, probably 3-4 months. And he gives a public statement hammering the proposed platform and the fact that the Labour Party looks like it's going to be dropping those two lines, that Hamas should disarm and that Hamas shouldn't be part of the government. And so he comes out with that. And I just want to read you one short paragraph. This is from one of the political commentators in this country, who's a unreserved ally of the State of Israel and of this community. Quote, "The Israeli ambassador's intervention, a blistering attack on the proposed Labour platform, was extraordinary and unhelpful. It is one thing to apply diplomatic pressure through government channels, but this was an attack on a political party. Jewish leaders in Australia recognize this distinction and the problem it has created." So, and that comes from a unreserved ally of the community, unreserved ally of Israel, a nationally regarded political commentator. So, so that's where it is. The conference is over. It was a positive that the issue did not come to the floor of the conference. My summation of all of the above is that it was a case of not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. In other words, in an ideal world, of course we would have wanted that line to be Hamas should disarm, and that Hamas should have no part of any future government. And by the way, it still remains part of the government policy, but it's been removed from the party policy. And ideally, that would have been the perfect. The good is that it did not get to the floor of the conference, because if it had, that member of parliament who was pushing the hard line, he would have had the floor, and there's no knowing where it could have gone. And I should add, the Jewish leadership has come out very critical of the outcome, very critical of the fact that those two lines have been dropped from Labour policy, and saying, is this a foretelling of what will be in government policy? So the Jewish leaders are very upset at the way it has turned out.
So it's actually just devastating, because what it looks like to me is that behind the scenes, Labour or a certain element within Labour is trying frantically to just keep a very, very fragile balance. But the reality is that they just can't manage it, because Labour in of itself doesn't value that balance.
Well, and you use the word balance, and it's very apposite that you did, because the Prime Minister was interviewed on the Sunday morning, and this conference took place mainly on the Saturday. The very next morning, he was interviewed on national television. Excuse me. And the journalist said to him, Prime Minister, how do you read all of this? And he used the word balance. He said, we've got the balance right between both sides. And then he said all the things that you would expect him to say. Two-state solution, I support Israel, safe borders, I support State of Palestine, everything that you would expect. But we have got the balance right. But your point is not wrong. It obviously is concerning that this is now out of the Labour platform. It still remains in the government platform, and hopefully the one does not impact the other, because that is the concern which has been expressed by Jewish leadership.
Absolutely fascinating. Vic Alhadeff, that is where we do need to leave it. Not simple times at all, politically in Australia or perhaps socially as well. 0618951019. Give me your thoughts, share your reaction to that conversation. Dr. Vic Alhadeff, thank you as always.